Hello, this is June Collier, Executive Vice President with MyEcon. In this video presentation, I'm going to share with you how to answer a new associate's question of where should I start first when it comes to investing and personal finances. The very first thing you want to make clear is that you are not a financial advisor. You are not licensed to make any investment recommendations to include stock picks, mutual fund selections, or any other investment. The verbiage that you will want to use should be something similar to this. I am not a financial advisor. Any advice that I offer you will be advice as someone who has managed their own personal finances. I do not recommend stocks, nor do I recommend any other investment vehicles. You should seek to pay a professional for that type of assistance. What I will offer is financial literacy. I will provide you with information to make an educated decision. I will explain the solid reasoning behind my advice. The first thing you should understand is that no two people have the same financial situation. Because of this, you should never just offer blanket advice. You must ask personal questions before making recommendations. The foundation of your advice should be based on their goal to get a good return or value on their money. They should also be open to unconventional wisdom about money. You will advise them things about money that they may not be used to hearing. Finally, they must be willing to go through the pain of change. If you want your life to change, you have to change. This can be uncomfortable to most people because we are creatures of habit. The starting point is the baseline, a financial snapshot of where they are in their finances today. Now, people don't like to hear the word budget, but it is something they will need. For now, create a budget that has no restrictions. Simply write down where all of their money is currently going. Where are they spending their money? They will need to complete the cash flow strategist. This is software that they will have access to as an associate. They should sit down and enter all their debts with amounts owed, interest rates, and other data requested by the cash flow strategist software. Finally, they need to list their income. How much money are they bringing into their household? Now, if I could offer you one piece of advice to help you create wealth, it would be pay yourself first. Do not pay any bill before you pay yourself first. Robert Kiyosaki was on the Oprah Winfrey Show many years ago, and this was the advice he gave. This is that unconventional wisdom that I mentioned earlier. A guy in the audience was so caught up in his responsibility to pay his creditors that he forgot the first cardinal rule to wealth. Pay yourself first. I am not telling you to be irresponsible for your debts, but what I am saying is to pay yourself first. Now, that's the fourth time that I've mentioned it. You should invest at least 10% of what you make. Don't make any excuses about how you don't have the money. Find it. As a MyEcon associate, one of the first places to look is in the readjustment of your withholding allowance, your W-4. Next, you might want to check places to save such as your cable, your cell phone, eating out, entertainment, insurance, and yes, your automobile. If you want to learn how bad a person really wants to become wealthy, ask them to cut off their cable and see what they say. Tell them to downgrade their $500 a month BMW payment to a $250 a month used Toyota payment and see what they do. Depending on their situation, they might need to look at getting a part-time job or starting a home-based business like MyEcon. Finally, they must commit to setting up an automated process in their investing. Once you have it set up on automation, you won't even have to think about it. Check out The Automated Millionaire by David Bach. So now that you are convinced to pay yourself first and you have found 10% to invest, where's the first place you should invest? I always ask if their company offers a 401k on their job. If their company does, my next question is if their company has any type of match. Oftentimes, companies will match dollar for dollar, 50 cents per dollar, or 25 cents per dollar. If this is the case, they must contribute to their 401k first, but only up to the amount that's being matched. You'll see why in a minute. Let's take Bob as an example. His company offers a 100% match on the first 6% of Bob's yearly income. Bob earns $50,000 a year, so 6% of $50,000 is $3,000. That's a biweekly contribution of $115.38. At the end of the year, Bob has invested $3,000 into his 401k, and his company has matched it with another $3,000. What is Bob's rate of return on his investment? If Bob contributed $3,000 and his company also contributed $3,000, Bob has earned a 100% return on his investment. Now, if Bob invests in a traditional 401k, he will also earn a tax advantage amount of approximately $1,000 to $1,285 in savings. This would increase his investment return to a 125% to 130% return guaranteed. Now, let me explain to you how I came up with that number. When Bob invested his $3,000 into a traditional 401k plan, he did not have to pay any taxes on that money. If Bob was in the 25% tax bracket, Bob would need to earn $4,000 to take home $3,000. If Bob was in the 30% tax bracket, Bob would need to earn $4,285 to take home $3,000. Finally, if Bob's 401k investment earns a return while in the market, that amount is added to the 125% to 130% return, making it one of the best returns on investments that you could ever have. Ensure that your associate is participating in their matching 401k program and maxing out the match. They are leaving a huge investment on the table if they're not. Now, Bob has a remaining 4% to invest. Remember, he is to invest 10% of what he makes. His company matches up to 6% of his income in his 401k. So Bob has maxed out his investment up to that match. That leaves him with 4% to invest. If Bob does not have an emergency fund, we're going to have him use the remaining amount of that money, the 4%, to fund his emergency fund. If a person earns less than $20,000 a year, a good emergency fund amount would be $500. If a person earns more than $20,000 a year, a good emergency fund amount would be $1,000. And if a person is approaching the yearly earnings of 6 figures or greater, they might want to look at even more for their emergency fund savings up to, say, $5,000. Once they have fully funded their emergency fund, they can redirect the money back to either their 401k or an IRA. Now, usually 401ks limit you to your investment choices, so you can open up an IRA and have a wider range of investment choices. You can also choose to go with a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. There are advantages to both, but I won't cover that here in this video. So, at this point, the associate is paying themselves first and is investing 10%. Now, let's take a look at eliminating debt. We need to help them find some extra money to go towards their first debt payment. We're going to use a principle called the Snowball debt elimination method. It works simply by taking any extra money that you have and applying it in a concentrated effort to one debt, usually the lowest debt you have. Once that debt is paid off, you roll that entire payment into the next debt and continue with this process until the debt is completely paid. Each time you pay off one debt and roll it into another, the amount of the rollover gets bigger and bigger, thus the snowball debt elimination. To learn more about the Snowball debt elimination principle, look it up on Google. The cash flow strategist will automatically figure out what debts you should pay off and how fast it will take you to eliminate your debt. The average person that I've seen has been able to eliminate all of their debt, with the exception of their home mortgage, within a period of 18 to 36 months, depending on how heavily in debt they were. Once you've paid off all your debts, with the exception of your mortgage, you are ready to now build your emergency fund to cover 6 to 12 months of living expenses. Now, before you think this is impossible, understand that we're not asking you to save 6 to 12 months of salary. We're asking you to save 6 to 12 months of living expenses. This is the cost to keep a roof over your head, utilities, food, and gas in your car. Remember, at this stage, you no longer have any debt, so covering your living expenses for the next 6 to 12 months can be relatively easy. At this time, you might also decide to increase your personal investments by another 5 to 10%, or you might strictly focus on building your 6 to 12 month cushion. The choice is yours. By the time you have 6 to 12 months of living expenses saved, your financial life is looking really good. There's no more paycheck to paycheck living, and you have some investments to go along with it. At this point, you will want to maximize your investing. Go back to the cash flow strategist, enter your numbers, and come up with a plan that accommodates your goals for retirement. You can also start living life a little and enjoying yourself. You've got enough disposable income that you can now start paying cash for things like vacations and even other big items such as cars. Be careful not to put yourself back into debt. You are now in the position to pay cash for anything you need. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a simple approach to creating wealth. Please understand that wealth is not created overnight, but one night you will look up and wealth will be sitting at your doorstep. Follow this proven plan. It doesn't matter where you start out. If you follow this plan, you will discover that you can create the lifestyle of your dreams by practicing common sense financial strategies. Beware. Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. Proverbs 13 and 11.